What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about SoundHound. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with data, we don't really have that much. We should be having GDP and a couple other data points, but because of the whole shutdown still on, a lot of that is paused. The big thing for this week is going to be the interest rate decision. And so that is going to be coming out on Wednesday. Current forecast is that we're going to have a 25 basis point cut. I think we've known this for a very long time. But what Powell says afterwards about potentially a December cut, that is what is really going to move the market because of potentially last Thursday and Friday's data that did come out. Now the market is assuming a small likelihood of a 50 basis point cut for the December meeting. So at the end of the day, that could really propel things higher. But like I said, because of the shutdown, a lot of big data such as GDP, initial jobless claims, and so forth is on pause. Aside from that though, we do have a lot of big companies unveiling the earnings. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, a lot of this recent hype that has caused SoundHound to go higher has largely been it piggybacking off of just the sector's momentum. So in reality, with Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, a lot of big names putting out their earnings, that as well could really propel the broader market and SoundHound higher. And then over and above that, so we have pretty much three main catalysts for this week. Third being Trump is meeting with China. So that's been something that's been looming over the broader market for a while now, last 3 weeks for the most part. So potentially, if things go good and we get a deal, then the market is going to really push higher. Because in my opinion, I don't think like China and the States, they don't really want to go head to head again, similar to what happened in April. It doesn't benefit anyone. So in my opinion, either we're going to see a last minute deal come out or potentially Trump's tariffs, which are supposed to be commencing on November the 1st, that get pushed back. So either another 90-day pause or something along those lines, but nonetheless, the market's going to take that as a positive. One thing that the market might not necessarily like that just came out, and I don't know if it's Trump just talking or if he's 100% serious, but it looks like because of Canada's PR and what they've been doing, it looks like the States wants to increase the Canadian tariffs by 10%. So I don't know how the market's going to really interpret that. On Friday, we did have Trump saying that he's going to cease all negotiations with Canada, and that didn't, like, the market didn't really care that much. So at the end of the day, this might cause some volatility, but in my opinion, not so much. Specific to SoundHound though, they do have this coming out, so they're going to be participating between October the 26th and the 29th at Money 2020. So there's a lot of big events. So they're going to be at a booth, a lot of kind of looks like PRs. This one right here seems to be a full panel list. So this is between 2:25 and 3. This is in person. So as far as I'm aware, there isn't going to be a webcast of this, which is rather unfortunate because it does look like there's going to be several interviews, probably a lot of articles afterwards just highlighting what was stated. But as far as I was able to see, I don't think that there is any webcast. So I think that's kind of the unfortunate thing about SoundHound is, especially being an AI play, you really need to like have everything broadcast, like doing things in person. That's so like 2023. I know that kind of sounds weird, but you guys get what I'm saying. I think this would be a lot more advantageous for a lot of investors if they were able to do that. But nonetheless, I think this will be a pretty big thing once we see those articles. And you never know, this could potentially prompt some new analyst ratings. Going into this upcoming week, this is the lowest short interest we are at and have been at since January 2025, as what my thumbnail even said, the lowest since January 2025. So that is definitely deserving of a round of applause. So we're going into this upcoming week, 28.2% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 103.6 million shares overall being shorted. Despite shorts returning a lot recently, DTC is sitting at 1.87 days, so that does still signal that shorts are very overextended. Shorts did return roughly around 9.09 million shares recently, and that is because of the NASDAQ disclosing the true amount of shares as of October the 14th, with that being 102.84 million shares overall being shorted. So definitely crazy stuff. We haven't been that low since, like I said, I think disclosed February the 13th, which that was roughly around 30% short interest. So we haven't been at the 28 since, like I said, January/December 2024. So definitely that is huge news. And I think that's kind of a move in the right direction. Ultimately, coming from the options standpoint, you see some optimism for it to be roughly around that 19 to 1950 by the end of this upcoming Friday. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 16 to 17. I don't know why, but this, even though this is still good, 19 to 1950, I think that's rather low considering everything that potentially is going to be coming out. So you have potentially deals with China, good company earnings that is going to really push SoundHound in the broader market higher. You have 25 basis point cut. So I think this 19 to 1950 is very low, in my opinion, of course. But aside from that, though, with it at 1798, looking at this on the 1-day chart, so these are very strong support and resistance points. It is trading between this R1 and the pivot. So 1585 is going to be a strong support. I don't personally see that really happening unless, you never know, Trump goes down the opposite path, escalates with China, and things get really worse. Maybe that might be touched, but in my opinion, I do feel that we will be really moving higher this upcoming week. So 1860 followed by 2029 will be the next strong target/resistance point. So I do feel realistically by the end of the week, we should be between this R3 and this R2. Again, unless something really does come out that spooks the broader market. But so far, there really isn't anything planned. But then again, Trump, he shoots from the hip. So he kind of just puts out something when he feels like it. Aside from that, though, on the actual chart itself, it is below that 10-day moving average, so it kind of shows that it does want to consolidate a little bit. But if it is able to get above that 10-day moving average, it'll kind of signal some kind of resurgence of some good momentum. Looking at the market position, you do see, especially comparing Thursday and Friday, a lot more willing sellers. Not that much buyers, but then again, I think the fear in the broader market, it's kind of, there's been a lot of things looming. And even despite the good CPI data that we did get on Friday, we still have a lot of bears saying, hey, hold on, 3% is still too high. So I feel like the market just doesn't know what it truly wants, but with all these crazy catalysts coming out, I do feel like this is going to be a optimum time to really buy before things get very heated. Because at the same time, SoundHound does have some potentially groundbreaking things coming from their upcoming earnings, and that could in among itself really push it higher. I did get a couple of comments asking if I'm going to be live streaming it, and as far as I'm aware, I don't have any conflicting companies I'm going to be really doing live streaming or any other commitments. So yeah, I could definitely live stream that one for sure. But looking forward into this upcoming week, on a side note, there really hasn't been all that much in articles or anything, no new analyst ratings. So last one did come out on the 16th, and that was H.C. Wainwright. So I think all in all, this upcoming week is going to be a fairly positive week. Most likely you'll see a lot of volatility though, but then again, we kind of already know that with that's what happens with SoundHound. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. Where do you see things going? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? At what stage are you a buyer? So my last kind of options that I sold 1750 puts on SoundHound, and yeah, they kind of expired worthless. So that's kind of a benefit. So any stock that you do really like and that you don't mind owning, consider selling puts on it. So because yeah, I think in general, like I've received like quite a few thousands of dollars just on premiums just by selling puts. And then when I did have a very substantial position of SoundHound, I was selling a lot of calls. The only downside of selling calls is sometimes when SoundHound really moves higher, you get stuck, right? Because when it was going up like this way back in December, I had like a substantial position, but unfortunately some of that I did sell covered calls on, it gets called away. So if you do feel a stock is really going to move higher, just maybe not do covered calls, because yeah, sometimes you lose your stock. But then again, as long as you make money, that's kind of the moral of the story. So let me know your viewpoint on SoundHound. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you are looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. I put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, especially over the weekend. I put out some really crazy bangers that should go up very hot early on this week. So definitely tune in and pop over then take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.